feature presentation.
Hey!
Sorry, I was looking at another screen.
Were you looking at the cool intro?
I was in awe of it. Who did that?
I don't know. Somebody did.
Somebody talented.
Someone very talented. How are you?
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's a long days.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. So welcome to the channel. This is After the Weekend. We need to do an intro.
Oh yeah. Hi. It's After the Weekend.
And what do we do here?
We talk about old movies we grew up watching, and TV shows sometimes.
Sometimes TV shows, and we honor some actors. You know, have some fun reminiscing. We hopefully you can join us. And this we have a
we
video.
try to talk about what we like as opposed to talking about what we hate.
I guess that's true. We do like old 90s stuff, so movies like this.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
And I died on the next mission.
You did, but your son saved us, so you're okay. And sometimes we honor actors, you know, like Steve Martin.
Did I ever tell you about the day that Steve Martin died?
Steve Martin's not dead, Mike.
I know.
That was fun. So, anyways, today
on this clip's gonna become sad one day.
It will. Today we are reviewing one of my favorites. I would assume one of your favorites since we picked it.
Yeah. No, I do like this film.
And then we are doing The Sandlot.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie. Yeah, I mean, when I think of like childhood, this is something that's like watched this so many times with my friends and on TV. And
yeah, this is literally the kid movie of kid movies. If you wanted to, so like, you know how it was like there was Goonies for the 80s, right? I would say this would be our movie for the 90s. So
this is well, I was gonna say this is kind of too like it because of how many characters there are in it. I mean, it's kind of like an older version of like the Little Rascals in a way. They don't get it nearly into the same amount of shenanigans, but
yeah. So
it's got a little bit of a vibe like that.
It does. It's a very fun movie. So basically, it takes place in 1962, the summer of 1962, and it's kind of told by one of the Smalls through his adult self. So he's narrating most of the movie. It's kind of like a Wonder Years style. You like Wonder Years?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like I was very young when that show was out, so like I remember like watching it, but it was not like something that I was into at the time, if that made sense.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a new kid came to town. He has no friends. It's right before the summer. And he makes those friends through the game of baseball. And it shows a time of America where it was just kind of innocent, where the kids just kind of run through the neighborhood, do pretty much whatever. And they play all day. They just literally play baseball from morning to lunchtime. For the most part, and they do get into some shenanigans.
And then baseball was still the sport of the country
in the 60s. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
and it was kind of in the 90s as well. In the early 90s, this movie came out in 1993, so it was still a popular sport.
But at that point, it wasn't until like the 70s, then you got the NFL and the NBA. I would really say the NFL kind of took off then, and then the 80s was really the NBA and even hockey with the NHL. Yeah. But at this time, I mean, really, like that was like the pro sport that everybody loved.
Yes, very much so. And I mean, these kids knew everyone from Babe Ruth to Willie Mays. They quoted everybody. They idolized Babe Ruth. This was he was like if you grew up in the 90s, a lot of kids idolized Michael Jordan. These kids idolized Babe Ruth. And the story kind of goes around that, where the new kid in town. He's trying to make friends, but he's also trying to like get in good graces with his stepdad, and his stepdad really loves baseball too. And the kid, I feel bad, but Smalls, he just never really was good at baseball, and it took him a little bit to understand what was going on. It was pretty funny.
Well, the other kind of funny thing, like you said, he's trying to get into the good graces of his stepfather, where I guess in that era, that's how it would be. Because like today, it's very much opposite. A step parent is really, trying to get in the good graces of the stepchild usually.
Right. And his stepdad was they didn't really say what he did, but he seemed to travel a lot, and but he was a very involved in baseball. So
Yeah.
And this is one of those scenes where they idolize Babe Ruth, where he's calling his shot. So and they all did it. It was kind of funny. Like my mom grew up in this era, and her brother, and they did exactly the same thing that this movie. My mom even liked this movie because it helped her remember those times when she actually grew up. So
I saw this.
This is Ham Porter, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw this at the Dollar theaters with my mom, and I remember watching it, and like my mom loved it. My mom was even like, I had a pair of Pia flyers like him, and that was like really the thing was like they make you fly.
Yeah, and they talk about that, and they mentioned that the Pia Flyer shoes made them run fast, or they all had like cookouts or camp.
Those were the Air Jordans of the day. That's
yeah. So they all had good times, and it as a kid in the 90s, you still could have done some of this stuff, but today I don't think you see a lot of this unless you're in a small town somewhere. But this was a movie that just idolized that whole era, and this was before Vietnam or anything like that. It was literally right after the 50s and early 60s. So that was it seemed like a pretty decent time for kids in America. So
yeah. Well, I forget. Does it say what year this? I want to say this is like
62.
Oh, is it 62?
Yeah, I said that in the beginning of the video.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I mean, even like thinking about it, I was like, I don't know why. I assumed this was like 64, 65. I thought this was like a little more.
1960, the summer of 1962.
This is even before Kennedy was killed. So
yes, yeah, yep, yeah, the year before. So it's just a neat summer movie. So basically, it all starts with the kids trying to make Smalls is trying to make friends, like we said, and he does make them. He does become pretty good friends with them through the game of baseball. And what happens is, and if you haven't seen the movie, it's kind of spoilers. They lose his stepdad's most cherished item, and it's a autographed signed baseball of Babe Ruth. And even at that time, that was valuable. So even today, that's even way valuable. So that freaked him out a little bit because he didn't really know who Babe Ruth. He's like, "Who's this lady?
Some lady.
Who's Baby?
Baby Ruth."
Yeah, the Sultan of Slot, the great Bambino. So all the kids were like, "How do you not know who Babe Ruth is?" Because the poor kid,
Colossus of Clout, of Clout.
Yeah, the poor kid didn't know who that was because he didn't really play baseball before he got to this town, and he was kind of a kid that was inside a lot. His mom tells him to, go outside and get in trouble, and have some fun, and he did, and he loses but he ends up getting in trouble. He loses the ball to a very massive dog, and that's like the villain of this whole the beast. Yeah, that's the villain of the whole movie, and they try to get the ball back. All of the friends get together to try to get that ball back because they know how valuable. And he's dead. Well, he's pretty much.
Well, the other part of the plot is when they lose, or somewhat kind of like the end of like the third act. They lose a ball, and Smalls like, "I'll just go over the fence and get it." And everybody's like, "No!" And so he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Why don't you?" And they're like, "The beast." And he's like, "Well, why don't we just go over there and ask for it back?" And they're like, "No, it's the meanest guy in the world."
And then you find out later that they're all just kind of rumors and stories, and that that's not necessarily
true.
You want to do that again?
No.
So, but yeah,
my wife and I do that all the time to our son.
yeah. It's a movie. Okay, so if you don't know this movie, but if you remember this movie, a lot of kids at this time when they watched this, they quoted it a lot. It had a lot of good quotes for kids to remember, and I feel like a lot of times I was also quoting this with some of my friends at that time. So
not only that, but like even later generations that have seen this movie love it.
Anybody who loves summertime sports or baseball tend to like it as well.
My son really loves this, but like I think of my oldest nephew who is, gosh, he's 24. I feel so old thinking about that.
Yeah.
But after he saw this, like he would run around with like a beef jerky stick in his mouth and be like, "I'm the great Hambino."
Yeah, it's just good. The great Bambino. There's just a lot of fun quotes. You can literally go through IMDb and go through all of them. You've got "You're Killing Me, Smalls." I think I've seen so many T-shirts, bumper stickers, mugs, with that on them, and it makes you kind of smile because it's such a you got to see that movie. You got to live it when it came out, and people are still liking it, and it's great. I think it's great.
Well, it's funny, or you get people who are like, I don't understand that reference.
Yeah, you get that too. You do.
Like,
you do get that.
You
Yeah.
had a terrible childhood. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's one of those movies. If you don't know what we're talking about, yeah, you could. Some people could completely go over their head, but it's fun. It's a fun, decent movie. And like I said, they end up getting the ball, and but it's in shambles because the dog kind of slobbers up. But they find out the dog's pretty friendly, and he's got like a whole like treasure trove of baseballs. And they find out the owner used to play with Babe Ruth, and so they end up being, the kid ends up sharing stories of talking baseball with that owner, and Smalls ends up being a I guess you would call him like a media reporter for the Dodgers, and the other character Benny plays for that team. And so
well, I was gonna say, the owner of the dog, played baseball, and when he finds out what happens, he even kind of goes like, "Oh, you're dead." But he gives him a ball that was signed by the 1927 Yankees, which was known as Murder's Row. They change, to give to his stepdad, and then I want to say he's like the radio play-by-play person.
He is, I think so, because he's calling the plays. And Benny, the kid that's like really good. And if you were in a sport when you were younger, there was always a kid that was really good that you thought would do something, right? And he was that kid, and he did. He ended up being
so Benny's at like 11 o'clock there in that photo. And right below him is Smalls. So like they're kind of,
and and you've got Squints.
We'll
go over all the characters here in a second, but it was a fun group of kids. You could literally, when I see this movie, I can pick out my own friends and be like, oh, I knew that. I knew a kid like that. So it was fun. It was fun. So like always though, we do a thing called the numbers. So where you kind of guess the numbers of the budget and the box office. So this is your thing.
Yep. So there was kind of some interesting things that I found out about this film when I was doing research. But it was filmed kind of summer to fall of 92, and then it came out April 7th of 93. I feel like it had a budget for what you would expect of a film of this time. The director is actually the one that narrates the film, and the person who plays the adult version of Smalls he has an entirely different voice, which I always thought was real funny because I noticed that as a kid. I'm like, their voices don't match up, and I found out it was the director. Kind of almost like this. I think what I liked about this, if you watched A Christmas Story, this is very much like a Gene Shepard story.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Which is
I
really,
wonder
really
if
good.
the director
They,
line up somehow.
There's actually there's a few documentaries out there that people have done, and there's like an official one that came out recently, and I want to say it was on like YouTube. I saw it. And they interview him, and I don't ever remember him saying anything about that. But like when I think about it, I'm like, it's very Gene Shepard esque story in the narration. He's a great narrator too. But one interesting thing is, like, when I was watching this again, I'm like, where did they film this in Southern California? Because I'm like, this slightly looks like this was on like the Universal lot or even like the Warner Brothers lot, but I'm like, those houses are spaced way too far apart. Everything's very tight when you go onto those mock-up streets. And because I'm like, man, like those houses just look amazing too. Because I'm like, those are real houses.
Yeah, real cars too.
And I was shocked where this was filmed. Where do you think
was
this movie was filmed? Just take a guess. So it's not Southern California or California for that fact. So you got 49 other choices.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say Arizona.
Close. This was filmed in Utah.
Okay.
Which I was like, wow, Utah is gorgeous. I would never have guessed that.
All right. So again, you can pause right here. You can give us your numbers in the comments. That would be great. Beard of Liberty did, and that was fantastic on the last video. He did great.
Poor guy was talking to himself. I felt a little
He
bad,
was. I know. So if you see Beard of Liberty in the comments, reply to him. So yeah. So let's go ahead here. So it was 7 million for the budget. That's you could think that was good because the kids aren't getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot of special effects. And today's money, that would be 15.2 million. And it made a good chunk of change from 7 to 34 million and 72 for today's dollars.
I remember tons of trailers for this and wanting to see it, and I was bummed like I wasn't able to see it right away. Like I said, I didn't get to see it till the dollar theater. And then but this was a movie that definitely made a lot more money, I think, in home video.
Yeah,
because like everybody had seen it too. That was the other thing.
I did not see this in the movie theater. I saw it on VHS.
I'm just saying, it was one of those things. This was a bigger home video release than it was a theatrical release.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think most people have seen this movie either on TV or streaming or on some type of media. So, but yeah. Speaking of movie theaters, let's go ahead and check out what was in the theaters when this came out. So the one that comes to mind here that I didn't realize is Indecent.
Yeah.
Right next to the Sandlot kids movie.
Well, like in did what is that? 4 times the amount, but I mean, Sandlot was second. But also too, what's kind of funny is the week prior, and I remember seeing that in the theater, and I was like, oh god, that was terrible. Even when I was a kid, was Cop and a Half. I thought it was boring.
Oh, okay. You even got Huck Finn with
and Ninja Turtle. Look at all the kids films like Ninja Turtles 3.
Well,
it's like no wonder Indecent Proposal did so well because
it's a summer movie. It's summer stuff.
For the past couple of weeks, it was nothing but kid and family flicks out there.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like right before school started because you even had Unforgiven's on there. That's I remember that one. But Ninja Turtles 3, Huck Finn,
Point of No Return, Groundhog Day had been out.
Sidekicks, that was a good one.
Well, so Sidekicks was new, but look how like few theaters. I remember advertisements for that, but I didn't realize what a small release that film had.
Wow. That was like a Chuck Norris movie, wasn't it?
It was. Okay. That's definitely a. I was gonna say that'd be a fun one to review. That's a little bit of a.
Well, if you would like us to review Sidekicks, put it in the comments. So yeah, and then there's some good movies there, and like you said, like you always say, back then you seem to have a lot of good choices, and you do.
Yes.
It looks like you do here. So we actually got something special to go over with this video. We did like a where they are now kind of thing. You've probably seen the articles, but here's a photo of some of them. Some of them you can guess that, yeah, that's what they should have looked like.
I will say it's pretty much everybody, but I think Mike Vitar is not there. Benny.
Yeah, he actually stopped acting shortly after this movie. So
he did a Mighty Ducks film.
He did.
And I think that was really kind of about it. I think he's acted here or there, even in his adult career, but like, yeah, he's kind of got a little bit of an interesting story.
It's funny that we're doing this because in the movie, the narrator actually talks about what happens when the kids got older. Like two of them like build like a mini mall.
The two brothers.
One gets really involved into the 60s and he disappears, which I thought was hilarious. And then, one plays baseball professionally.
One became a wrestler.
One became a wrestler. One married the lifeguard, and so
the girl he Me Too'd. It's hilarious because like you couldn't do a scene like that in a movie today. I mean,
no. Well, what happened? Okay, we'll try to explain it. So this kid's in love with this girl. Is probably at least 3 or 4 years or grades ahead of him. And she's a lifeguard of the pool, and he fakes his drowning so she can save him. And as she's giving him CPR, he gives her a nice little French kiss and runs off. But eventually they end up getting married because she's actually secretly
Wendy Peppercorn.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Who's your big stud?
That's me, honey.
Take me to bed or lose me forever.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's definitely at least 5 years older than him.
Yeah, I think she was like middle school or
no. They were clearly like I think entering in middle school.
Okay,
I don't know. And like I'm assuming she was in high school.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll put an article in the video if you want to see like the details of where they were and where they are now. A lot of them, they're still, some of them are still acting, which is pretty cool. So that's a neat thing to check out. Now you have some fun facts for us.
I do. So in the beginning, you kind of get the introduction that he's doing the baseball game. All right, take it back. It's the end, and you find out that Benny got to the majors, and it's the older version of Benny. Person is very striking to young Benny, and for the longest time, I thought it was his dad. It was actually his older brother. It is.
Oh, okay.
It's like Big Benny with a mustache. It's real funny.
He does look like him.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could always tell those people are related, but yeah, it's his older brother.
That's pretty cool.
The director told Squints when he kisses Wendy Peppercorn, "Keep your tongue in your mouth," which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, and you definitely do see this that Smalls and Benny do have a very close bond to each other, and that came from they actually
neighbors.
They lived across the street, but just the way that they kind of connected with each other and talked to each other, that they actually had them together a couple of weeks before everybody else, and everybody else actually thought they were best friends. they just that camaraderie that they had just from being together. And then the last one's just a little bit of a baseball fact. When Benny has his dream with Babe Ruth grabs a Hank Aaron card and asks if he can keep it, and it's Hank Aaron, and Hank Aaron would go on to break his home run record.
Yes, he would. Yep. And he even said it in the movie. Like, I think he's, he might do something like that. He has a feeling. Babe Ruth mentions that. So, that's.
I thought the kids were talking about it. Is what it was.
No, I think he says, I think this guy is going to be special. So can I have this one? I think he's going to do something special. So I think that's what I remember. But that was a cool scene when Babe comes in because I think around the same time they did another movie about Babe Ruth, like his life story. So, but
yeah, with John Goodman. I think it's called The Babe.
That's a
I
good
was going to
movie.
say, of the cast, sadly, the gentleman who played Babe Ruth, Art LaFleur, passed away 2 years ago. He was a good character actor. I mean, you'll
and
recognize him from a lot.
Yeah, and the neighbor, was Darth Vader himself. So James Earl Jones. So, and he's blind. He's blind. So it's funny to see him pretend to be a blind man.
Yeah. Well, he wears glasses, so it was it's pretty easy for him to be.
But he's
blind.
he's the same. He's like the James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams. Like he's like that same type of character.
Yeah.
But he's not in it very long. He's only in it really around the end there.
I don't know why, but I like the touch of like they get the ball back from the dog, and when he asks about it, he's like, give it to me, and he takes it and he smells it. But I mean, like, just because he's blind, but like it was like a way to interact with it. I just thought that I don't know why I liked that touch of his character.
Mm-hmm.
And
he knew about everything in his room. He had all like stuff behind me. He had all his stuff, but he knew exactly where everything was. He's like, hold on, I'm going to get you one thing that he knew was special, and he knew it was there, even though he couldn't see it was there. And that was the baseball signed by the Murderers Row. So this has been great talking about this movie. And it's always fun to rewatch some of these because you get old memories, right? From just watching them.
I'm thinking of so many. I know we're ending it, but I'm like there's like the rival kids that show up that actually like are in organized sports, and they have
you throw like a girl.
They have their little insult match, but some of those two are like hilarious. Where he's like, "Shut up, pee drinking crap face."
Yeah, and then there was one that he said that like the worst was that final smart you fart smeller, and that's like ruined everybody's time. It was like that was like the worst thing you can call him.
Well, but yeah, like the whole like you play ball like a girl, like everybody stops. It was like he dropped an F-bomb.
Yep.
Everybody was speechless. So funny.
Pretty funny. Really, really fun movie. Go ahead.
They go to the amusement park after they beat him, and one of them gets his hands on tobacco.
Oh yeah.
They shove like fistfuls of chewing tobacco into their mouth, and like they think they're so cool. They get sick.
And they get sick, and they puke on everybody.
What's funny, the one person that you don't see get sick, I feel like, is, and I'm assuming either he just couldn't do like being sick real well, unlike all the other kids, was you never saw Benny get sick.
I don't think Benny took it.
No, he does.
Oh,
you do see him, but kind of like after that, like you don't really see him get on.
Remember, he became a real baseball player, so maybe he was just a youth. He like immediately was able to do it.
He knew how to absorb all that energy out of it.
Yeah. So before we let you go, make sure you hit the like button for us, share the video out with your friends, and leave a comment if you have any memories from this movie. That'd be great. But also, if you want to support us in any way, you can maybe get an After the Weekend t-shirt or hoodie. Summer's ending pretty here soon, so you might need something to warm you up in the winter. And we got the mixtees.com After the Weekend logo over there. And if you use ATW20, you'll get 20% off. So they're really nice shirts. I've got one on. Soft.
Me too.
You should like them. Again, this was a fun summer movie with the rest of our movies. If you haven't seen the other ones, we did Patriot and also National Treasure. And we're going to do Independence Day next. So July is going to be fun. All right. Rick, any last words?
Yes. If your ball goes over your neighbor's fence, just knock on the door. Don't plot and scheme to get your way over.
Just knock on the door.
Just knock on the door. If you don't really